Hey everybody, how are we doing? I hope you can all hear me and see me. Everything should be working, but let me know if it isn't. As usual, we will try and remedy, but everything seems to be working fine on my end. How are you all doing? Hope you're all doing well. I can see a few of you are in chat already, which is great. Thanks for joining us. This is going to be a fun one today, I think. I'm a little bit tired because I went to watch Hans Zimmer live last night, which is very, very good fun down in London. But we've had floods and we had trouble getting there with the trains and then trouble getting back. It's been one of those few days, but it was really good fun. Had a great time. Went down with my brother. We chilled out. We watched some Hans Zimmer. And then we came back home and I got straight on the computer and started transcribing Carmina Burana, which is today's stream, I guess, or O Fortuna, more specifically, a piece from the Carmina Burana, this famous piece by Carl Orf. If you don't know if you know this piece, I'm almost sure you're going to know it as soon as you hear it. It's one of the classic pieces of sort of classical music, modern classical music. It was written, I think, 1930s, mid-1930s, by the composer Carl Orf. Incredible piece of music. We're going to focus on a section of probably the most famous piece from this cycle of music. And the reason, I mean, look, we mostly do like cinematic and trailer music in this, on these streams and with Audio Imperia in general, but we also love classical music and the symphonic tradition. And I think what's really important about this piece of music is probably a huge amount of modern music has some of its roots in this piece. This piece set the template for a lot of the great kind of choral and epic symphonic orchestral stuff that's come over the last, 40, 50, 60 years. So I think we did Duel of the Fates last week. Was it last week? I'm pretty sure we did. We did a section of Duel of the Fates. And, that owes a huge debt to a piece like this. It's different in some ways, but in other ways, this kind of classic combination of chorus and orchestra and that huge, epic, larger than life, almost mythic kind of sound, if not originates in this piece, certainly this piece is one of the best examples and most famous examples of this kind of thing. It's a great piece of music. You're going to have fun. If you don't know if you like classical music or anything, stick around. I think you're going to, particularly this piece. And as I say, I think it's got a really important, sort of historical role to play in the development of a lot of cinematic and film and TV music that's come since. Hey, Ollie. Ollie's with us, which is cool. And some of the other Audio Imperia gang may drop in. You never know. Sometimes they do when they're not busy beavering away on something or other, because we're usually quite busy on something. But when we can spend a couple of hours, we drop in. Everyone says hello. We've had Tom with us, Jan with us. We've had everyone with us. I think Jonathan's been with us. Ollie's with us now, which is cool. And I'm, of course, always with you. I'm the boring one that just turns up pretty much every week. Although I nearly didn't this week because of the trains, but we made it. We're here. A few bags under the eyes, but that's okay. No one's looking at me. It's all about the music. So how are you all doing? Before we head over, just going to find out if everybody's cool. Going to make sure we're all set up here. I haven't, because I was late with the trains there, I haven't fully transcribed this piece. So we're probably not going to get it 100% accurate, but we're definitely going to get it to a level where I think it's going to be recognizable. So if you know the piece of music well, you may come and say, hey, the trombones don't exactly do that and the flutes don't exactly do this. And you're probably going to be right because this is not 100% finished, but all the main stuff is there. And it's one of those pieces of music that actually, when you break it down, there's only a few elements going on. There's a lot of doubling of instruments and a doubling of parts. So we're probably going to be able to do a decent enough transcription of this, a mock-up of this, even if it's not perfect. Hello, Nicholas. Thank you for joining us. Yes, and we've got Entrada with us. We got Lewis with us. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. If I ever pronounce things wrong, let me know. Nosferatu's with us. Twits on the beat. Again, if I ever get, I'm terrible at pronouncing stuff, especially when it's like nicknames or like, so if I just say like, hey, no, you got it wrong, I will correct myself for the record. Okay, so we're going to head over. We're going to have a look at this. Hey, Fedor, thank you for joining us. I have my score in front of me waiting to check every note. Yeah, there will definitely be a few, maybe not wrong notes, but there's going to be a few where I'm just like papering over some cracks. I can't remember 100% what the oboes do or what the flutes do. But again, it's one of those things where the choir is the most important element, and we do have that pretty much spot on. Everything else is kind of either accompanying the choir or kind of mimicking the choir. And again, like I said, it's going to be there pretty much as just some fine details that we may go back through the score and be like, not 100% correct, but hey, it's fine. That's we're just going to get the vibe of it today. And of course, we're going to be using chorus. We used Chorus last week to Duel the Fates, did an incredible job as it always does. Like last week, we're probably only going to use one patch from Chorus, which is these energetic syllables, because this is a very energetic piece, and those syllables are absolutely perfect for this kind of music. We may move to the traditional syllables. I'm not sure. I don't think we'll need them, but we may do. 2 streams make choirs in a row. Nice. Yeah, we've doing more choir stuff recently. It's also important to note that I think it's the last week of the Black Friday sale as well. So if you're looking for a choir or something else, lots of sales to be had over the Audio Imperia website. So go check it out. As I said before, I'm biased, of course, but I say unashamedly that I think Chorus is one of the very, very best choral instruments on the market. It's just so good. It sounds incredible, so easy to use, can do almost anything that you'd ever want to do with a choir when it comes to the kind of bread and butter stuff with choirs. Legatos, you've got the syllables, you've got word building if you want to do that, or syllable building, I should say, really, and a whole bunch of other stuff in between. And it all sounds incredible. Got a great, we usually have a classic and a modern mix, which we have in Chorus, but we've also got this incredible mix by the wonderful Grammy Award-winning engineer and mixer Scott Michael Smith, who's a great guy, and very kindly got involved to create an incredible mix, very cinematic. I mean, his stuff sounds so incredible, and he brought it all to Chorus and made that sound incredible too. So there's 3 mixes. We usually have 2. We've got 3 mixes in Chorus, and they're all useful for certain things. I'm going to stick with the Scott Michael Smith mix today, I think, but we may check out maybe the classic mix, because there may be a case that works a little bit better for this. I don't know. We're going to have to see. Cool. Okay, let's head over to the door and have a look at what we have today. It's going to sound a bit messy when we start, but as we pick apart bit by bit what we're doing, it's probably all going to make some sense. Cool. So let me just mute some of this stuff that we're not going to need at this moment in time, and we'll have a little look at what we've got. Okay, you guys should be able to see this. We have a lot of sketches up here as always. We've got our choir, the SA, which is soprano, alto, and TB, which is tenor and basses. The way Chorus is split is that it's split into women and men. So we have essentially the combined soprano and alto and the combined tenor and basses, which makes it a bit easier to use. And it doesn't really, give you any less realism or any less flexibility, because you can stack things up. You can make it work really well. So, that's what we're going to use today. So I've condensed the traditional, or the original score has the sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses all split out. We've got them condensed here, but that really doesn't matter. It's a very big wall of sound and very kind of monophonic in the way that they're singing for the most part. So it's going to work really well. And then we've got our strings. As I said, pretty much everything else is some kind of duplication of the strings or the vocals. And in fact, the strings are pretty much a duplication of the vocals for the most part, apart from a little section where they do something different. You can try recreating Casa Dum, my favorite choir and very interesting brass orchestration. That would be really, really, really cool, actually. I would love to do that one. We should definitely do it. And I think that Chorus would work really well for that as well, because even in those big low notes, those big male low notes, it does have a really, really incredible sound. It's a great piece of music. We should definitely do more Lord of the Rings. We did do a Lord of the Rings a few months ago. It was the, what's it called? The Great River scene, when they go over the Argonath, the two statues. And we did that little section, which is great fun. But Casa Dum is a classic. We should definitely do it. Okay, let's have a listen to what we've got. It's all going to sound a bit weird. As usual, piano sketches, sometimes when you sketch everything out on piano, it sounds very clunky and weird. But as you get the right articulations, everything should begin to make more sense. So this is the section we're going to do from the beginning up to sort of the end of the first big statement. It's too big a piece to do the whole thing, but we can get the first minute and a half or so done. So that's where we're going to get up to today. It goes on. It's an incredible piece. It cycles all over again. It's got this big outro, but I don't think we're going to have time to get all that done today. We're going to focus on the choral elements of this. And again, maybe we did like Spider-Man we did a week or two ago, and we ended up finishing the whole piece. Maybe we'll do that with this as well. It depends how it turns out. It depends what people think, but you never know. So, okay, let's take a look at what we want to start with here. I think let's start with getting this stuff on the choir, because the choir is really the focal point of this piece of music. You know, it is a choral piece. The choir is the most important element. Everything else kind of sits in and around the choir. And yeah, so let's get that in and see what we think. So we usually with chorus, it's pretty much just a case of copy paste, and then we might do a bit of program. By the way, there's been no program on the sketches. I just wrote all this in. It's all 100 velocity. It's all very bumpy and lumpy at the moment, but as we go through, we should be able to figure this out and make it work. So choir, let me just glue all this together because you might as well have it all as one piece. We're going to open this up and we're going to have a look. It's all pretty basic. You can see it's all just been handwritten in, no quantization, or rather no humanization, I should say. It's going to be a bit clunky, but we can fix that up as we go along. So we're going to want this pretty much starts absolute double F, you know, fortissimo, even fortissimo. I think it's fortissimo, but it's pretty huge, whatever it is. So we're probably going to want to be up here. Nice. And what I'm going to do, I have a really simple Cubase macro here. Just add a tiny bit of humanization, which I'm going to do. So you can see I press this, we're just going to get a little bit of movement. I'm just going to try and give a little bit of humanization here. Berserk also said, is it Berserker Defense Group? I think. Hello, so glad to catch this live stream. Hope everyone's had a good Thanksgiving. Yes, hope you did if you celebrate it. And yeah, I hope. I also agree. Hope it's been a good 2025. How have you guys found it? Lovely, lovely. So excited for this. Yeah, it's going to be good, I think. So already sounding pretty good. Nice. The timing of this piece at the very beginning is a little bit loose. There's some pauses. There's a way to kind of construct this how you want. If you listen to a few different versions of this, there'll nearly always be a slight difference in the way the conductor chooses to interpret this section. Some leave a big pause. Some don't leave much of a pause at all. I'm being extra dramatic with this. It's probably a little zestier than most people would do in terms of pauses, but hey, I'm just going to keep it that way for now. What is humanization? So basically, let me show you what I mean when I say humanization. Let's find a piece. Let's just take this here. I'm going to quantize this back. Can you see how everything here is right on the grid? We have this grid here with the lines, and everything is hitting perfectly on the grid. So line here, right on the grid, line here, right on the grid. This is because I've written everything in, so it's very computerized. Even though it sounds great and it could work this way, very often people will either play stuff in or they will deliberately humanize. And what we mean when we say humanize is they're going to add the slight human imperfection, right? I mean, a lot of the great wonder of music is this kind of human aspect to it, where nothing's 100% on time, nothing's 100% on pitch, nothing's 100% perfect, but it's that creates the excitement and the mood and the realism. And sometimes one of the issues in mock-ups is it can be too computerized. It can sound too on the grid and perfect. So what you can do is humanize, and the easiest way to humanize is to play everything in. But I come from an old background of just writing stuff in by mace. I do sometimes play stuff in, but I don't find that natural for me. I'm not a great pianist or anything. What you can do is you can humanize things. So I can grab all these, and I've got basically, I'll show you because I can do it up here. Where is my, here we go. So you've got what we call rough inside of Cubase. It's sometimes called humanization or something, I think, in Logic. But basically I can take the grid that we have and I can create a number of ticks. It could be 3, it could be 12, it could be 18. I usually rate 9 to 11 is good. Watch what happens when I click this. Everything moves off the grid slightly. So it's very close to perfect, but it's not quite perfect. And that's really what musicians are like. They're very, very good. They're really, really accurate, but no one's perfect. And sometimes that slight lack of perfection It's what makes something sound a little bit more human, a little bit more alive. So that's what we mean when we say humanization. If you've written everything in by hand, written everything by mouse, sometimes you might want to humanize it, or the other way around. Sometimes you might play something in. When I play it so sloppy, I have to quantize everything. So in other words, bring it back to be a little bit more to the grid, because I'm so out of time and useless at playing. But this is the other way around, where everything's a bit too perfect and we probably want to rough it up a bit and give it a bit more natural character. So yeah, that's what humanization is. It's a great question. And it is one of those things that, we tend to do to try and make our mock-up sound a little bit more real. Like I said, ironically, when everything's too perfect in pitch, too perfect in performance, too perfect in time, actually doesn't sound as real as you might expect. Very often you want to do the opposite thing and make it sound a bit rough and a bit kind of raw in some ways, and that gives it more emotional depth sometimes. So we're not going to go crazy with the humanization today, but we might pick and choose some instruments or some things that we want to be, a bit rougher and readier and kind of more human. No problem. Glad I could help. Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's a huge part of mock-ups. It's one of those things where a mock-up that's too at a time and badly played or performed won't sound very real, but also something that's too perfect might have the opposite problem of not sounding very real because it's too perfect. So it's a bit of an art form sometimes to try and figure this stuff out. And yeah, there's a few ways that you can do it. I have this little button here. You can see if I just do. So basically what I did up here, I have it assigned to a stream deck that you can't see down here. But if I press the stream deck, everything's going to move very slightly. Just a tiny bit. Nothing's really going out of time, but everything is a tiny bit off the grid. And that instantly gives a touch of life to things. So if I've written everything in, I can change it around and make it sound a little bit more realistic, but without losing the time. Ooh, 9 to 11, I'm going to jot that one down. I always play stuff in my stuff in, but man, the weird delay from the keyboard to DAW has me spending a bunch of time trying to line up notes where I want them. That can sometimes be an issue. If you have lots of plugins or your computer or your sound card is maybe not quite able to handle everything, sometimes you can play stuff in and you can have latency, as we call it, which is like you press something, but it takes a few tens or a few hundreds of milliseconds to register, and that means everything comes a little bit later than you play. That can be another really hard thing, and that's why originally I wrote everything in, because I had a terrible computer way like 20 years ago now. I couldn't play anything in. It was probably a quarter of a second behind, so I just started writing everything in, and because I come from the sheet music world, that kind of made sense to me, and yeah, I just carried on doing that because my performance isn't very good. But when I'm working on like a scoring project or something, I try and play stuff in. Particularly if it's like a solo or something, I'll try and capture my own performance. But I pick and choose when I do it because I am not a great player. Okay, we've got the male choir in, and I just want to show you this. If I show you these together, the male choir and the female choir are, for the most part, really just in octaves. So they're doing the exact same thing, but in octaves. You can see we've got this F up here, where the females are singing, and then an F down here. There are a few sections where it's slightly different, but for the most part, it's really just the same thing in 2 octaves, and that's a huge wall of sound. All the men singing the same thing at a lower octave, or the women singing the same thing at a higher octave. Just sounds huge. Okay, so let's have a listen to this. This should hopefully sound pretty beefy already now. Nice. That's sounding pretty good. And then what we'll do is we'll sort of program as we go, but I just already know that I'm going to want to bring this down a little bit. It doesn't quite go whisper quiet, but this section is a lot more dramatic, tense, quieter, more introspective. So we instantly know we're going to want to sort of, we start pretty much at full pelt, and then we kind of go down at this section to this much quieter, more brooding section. And then we go to the big sort of climactic element. So nice. We're not worrying about, we could do syllable building. We did talk about this last week where we could change the syllables to more accurately reflect the words of the song. We're not going to do that. It would just take too long. But maybe we should at some point on a stream or in a video show you how to like use the syllable builder so that you can, if you want to, make your sounds more specific. Because that can be useful. Most of the time, I personally don't use it because for a lot of the time, the choir is just in the background acting as a layer. And I don't worry too much about the exact words they're singing. But if you really like to kind of get in there and dig in, we looked at this last week, but you can go in Let me just see. Yeah, you can actually change these around to choose what syllables have been sung on a note by note basis. That could be really useful if you like that kind of thing. There we go. Oh, why is that not closing down? Does that work? Having another Cubase gremlin. I'll be having Cubase gremlins the last few weeks. We've been talking about this. It's been a bit concerning, but it looks like it's okay. Can make these a tiny bit shorter so they're a bit more clipped. Again, we'll program as we go. Nice. And then we do know that as we get to this point at the end here, we want to go back just full here. So I'm just ramping up my modulation here. You can see what I'm doing. And I'm not being too precious about it. Because again, chorus sounds so good. You don't have to do a ton of programming. It's not one of those that benefits from having at least these energetic syllables, all these tiny things like that. Some things would, because it really matters. With this, it's just a big wall of sound. And that's kind of what we're going for. Huge. That sounds great. I mean, and this is it. All one patch. We've literally just copied and pasted the MIDI. We haven't done anything. Probably should, but if we don't have time, it's still going to sound great. That's what I love about Chorus. When it comes to what we call workhorse libraries, which what we mean by that is like libraries that just get jobs done quickly and easily and fast. You know, if you're on a scoring project or something, you don't want to have to go in and spend 4 hours coming up with 8 bars or 12 bars. You want to play something in or write something in, just have it sound good off the bat. And that's exactly what Chorus does. These energetic syllables they just write themselves, basically. Cool. Now I'm going to do one of these. Here's one I prepared earlier moments here now. I've got a piano. There's a piano in this piece of music. There's actually 2 pianos in this piece of music, and we're going to use 2 pianos to kind of simulate that. One of them's Audio Imperia, clavier. One of them's not Audio Imperia. It's our good friends at Native Instruments. And I've just chosen this because I want this to sound very much like it's in a concert hall or something. And clavier is an incredible piano, but it's a little bit brighter and more modern and more in your face sort of up here, which I think is going to work as a layer, but I don't think it's going to work as our main piano. So I've gone and used the Grandeur, which is from Native Instruments, and I've just popped that in. I'm going to show you what this sounds like, and you're going to see why I've chosen a piano like this, because I want it to sound like it's in a hall, and I want it to have that kind of depth. It's got these huge chords, this big stabbing bass, and then these big chords, and they're very dissonant chords. They're all based around D minor, so you can see we're in D minor. Just D minor, C, and B flat major. Very simple chord sequence, but you can see there's lots of clashing here. So there's lots of ninths, there's lots of seconds. You know, so instead of a D minor, if I just bring up, let's just show you very quickly. If I just bring this up, make that single pane. So instead of just D minor, which you can see here, there's seconds and ninths and sevenths and lots of kind of clashing close chords and tones that make this sound a lot more tense than if it was just sounds fine, but it'd be a bit boring. But because you have this, sounds really intense. Sorry about that, but yeah, sounds cool. You're going to see with the choir, we'll mix this in, it's going to start coming together a bit. Nice. And I really want this in the hall, right? I want it at the back. So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to add a bit more distance here. Also going to use a bit of the hall verb here as well. I might even use a little bit of the stage verb too. Really want to push it back, but not make it too muddy, but we want it to sound like it's, you know, at the back of the room. It's kind of working, I think. Nice, that sounded good. But I'm also going to use clavier as well, because I really love the definition of clavier as a main layer for this type of thing. probably wouldn't be my first choice, which is why I'm using the grandeur, but as something that cuts through and adds definition, and particularly with the staccato or staccatissimo articulation I'm going to show you in a minute, it really, really adds something. But I think these two are going to work really nicely together, and we'll pan them a little bit. I'm actually just going to use the standard pan. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Here we go. So let's listen to clavier. You're going to hear a much brighter, more direct sound. In fact, let me just do some mic changes here because we don't want it to be too sort of direct, and we don't need this on at all. Sounds really good, but it's a more direct piano. Now we can add a bit of reverb to put this in a room, which is going to help. Probably don't want quite that much. Maybe, yeah, we're going to want even less than that. But you can hear already, now it feels like it's in a room more. Nice. We'll do a tiny bit of tail. I don't want too much hall reverb because we don't want this to swim, right? If it gets too muddy, it's going to sound, well, you're not going to pick anything out. It's going to sound weird. So maybe just something like that. Now you can hear how the two of them working together really just has a lot more depth. Nice, sounds good. I'm going to take a little bit less reverb, I think. Reverb's always one of those things, I've always heard that piece of advice, that like with reverb, you should dial it up till you can hear it and then pull it back a little bit. You know, it's almost like that's what you want, because by the time you've added reverb to everything, too much reverb is going to make everything swim and just sound muddy and indistinct. And particularly with elements like this that are in the background or supporting, if you've got too much reverb there, it's just going to, either they're going to get muddy or they're just going to build up a lot of kind of mids and stuff that you don't need. Nice, just a tiny bit more to that one. I think we're done. So cool. Beautiful, sounding good. Now what we're going to do is clavier. If I bring this one down here, and we have another clavier here, same thing, same instrument, but I'm going to show you guys something that you may or may not know about clavier. It has these two, sustained and staccatissimo. Staccatissimo is really short. If I just show you what that sounds like. It's played a lot more kind of short, you know, with a lot more percussive accent, which I think is going to work really well in this other section here. So I'm going to copy and paste my sends over. Let me just make sure that worked. Yep, we got that one. And we'll also get a bit of hole in there as well. Cool, looks good. Now, this should sound pretty interesting. Yeah, that's great. If I put it on the other one, it's going to sound a bit more, just less performed, a bit more kind of smooth. It's fine, but it's good. You know, it worked, but that sounds really, really cool. It's got a lot of tension to it. And Nosferatu asks, doesn't the last part of the chord slow down? They do, and we'll add all that at the end, I think. Like I said, the timing is not perfect for this. We probably won't get it 100% perfect, but you're right. Those last few chords, we will definitely slow down. But we'll sort of build this up layer by layer, and then we'll finesse as we get to the end. But well spotted. We should definitely add some finesse to this. Like I said, because this is classical music, and it's, or concert music, I guess we call it, the timings are all interpretive. In film, you pretty much got to hit certain timings, right? You got to get a scene to work with the music or the music to work with the scene. There's no one interpretation of this piece. I've heard people play it 10, 15 beats per minute faster than the next person. Some people have long pauses, short pauses, but I agree with you. I think we need a bit more drama at that point, which we'll add in. Okay, let's have a listen to these two combined here. Nice. And again, on its own, sounds great, but maybe lacks a bit of depth. This one maybe lacks a little bit of definition together. I think they work really nicely. And this is all they do for this section. It's this constant plodding kind of, you know, tense build up. So you can hear how all these begin to work together. Sounds really cool. Nice. Okay, this is coming together. And yeah, really cinematic how this is built, right? It's not like a lot of traditional concert hall music, which is very layered and progresses, structured. Everything kind of builds and flows and moves and nothing stays the same. This has that feeling of almost like modern film score, right? It has this motor going on, has this tension, has this cinematic mythic quality. You can see why this is, one of the blueprints for a lot of music that's come since. And to this day, sometimes I work on things and they use a temp score, and this is in the temp score, and someone says, I want it to sound like Carmina Burana, which is not easy to do, but you know what they mean. They want choirs, they want big, epic, larger than life, mythical kind of sound. Okay, let's move on and maybe do our strings. Let's start with our high strings. Let's do our first violins. Most of the strings today I think are going to be Mockatos. Yeah, so I actually don't have one set up for my first violins. I don't know why. This is me and my template just not being particularly accurate. This takes a second to load up. There we go. Okay, let's close. Actually, let's leave that open a second. I can come in here. Violins one. I think Dolce is going to work really nice for this because Dolce's got that slightly more symphonic sound, I guess, in a way. Even though it's a chamber library, there's just something about the room, something about the way the players played, which makes it sound very sort of traditional in a good way. So, and still cinematic though, traditional but cinematic, which is exactly what Carmina Burana is. Okay, so this first section I think is all Mockatos. Then there's a bit of pizzicato, which we shall get on to. Very, very high strings here. And again, very layered. You can see a lot of tension. There's a lot of what we call double stops, where the strings are played at once, and a lot of overlapping kind of tense stuff going on here. So this section is all going to be pretty loud, I think. Let's have a listen. Really weird orchestration, right? It's weird. You have these like huge high notes, and then suddenly it condenses down to a single note. Really strange stuff, but I promise you this is all from the original score. Might not got it 100% accurate, but this is the crux of what's going on. I'm really hoping to get a computer this Christmas. Found out that Cubase recommends at least 6 cores on the computer. Found out that my rinky-dink computer only has 2. Yeah, it's that, and that's, I've been there. It's hard when you're working with less resources than you like. So fingers crossed you get one. That will definitely help. And Pillow Talk says, Adam, how'd you go about syncing hits with edits when scoring? I find I lean super heavy on the time warp function in Cubase, but I'm always curious to hear about any other ways composers do it. I use time warp as well a lot these days. I find it really useful. And yeah, I think it's a good way to do things. But I also do sometimes, another important thing I think is time signature. Music changes. The time signature of cinematic music changes a lot for precisely that reason, that sometimes you don't want a time warp. You don't want the tempo to go from like 120 to 78, back to 115, back to 92. That's too much sometimes movement. So sometimes you need to lose a beat rather than change the time. You just need to say this 4/4 bar needs to become 3/4. Or you need to add a beat and say this 4/4 bar needs to become 5/4. You'll notice that happens a lot in film music. So I do that too. Change sort of time signatures to sometimes condense or expand things if I don't want to get too much change in the tempo. But it's all feel, isn't it? Sometimes it's the right thing to do to change the tempo. Sometimes it's just not the right thing to do. So yeah, I use a lot of time warp as well. And we've covered that in the Modern Composer Blueprint, how you might approach doing something like using time warp. It's a really good feature inside of Cubase. Okay, so we have these huge violins at the beginning here. Let's have a little listen to these with everything else we have going on. Oh, hold on a second. One thing I'm noticing though, do we have these? Yeah, pulled these a beat, I think 2 beats behind here. They should be, oh wow, they should be there. Don't know what's happening there. Nice. And we might need to bring them up. We will just use the gain tool to bring them up. Dolce is a little bit quieter than a lot of other libraries, just the way it was recorded and designed, because we did it with performance samples that sometimes do things that way. But easiest thing in the world to fix that, just bring the volume up. That's very, very easy to do with digital workflows. Doesn't compromise anything at all. So nice. And these strings we don't have them too loud. This is not cinematic music where the strings would likely be in your face. So we can find a sweet spot. And that's where Nosferatu was saying we should slow down, which is definitely true. Or maybe we'll do that once we've got everything in place for this first section. And then we move to pizzicatos. So let's make sure these are nice and quiet. Yeah, they're not going to be that loud. They're all pretty much sort of piano, pianissimo, something like that. And we're definitely going to want to add some humanization to them. Because, you know, these are like slightly percussive transients saying that if they're too robotic, it's not going to work. So they're just doing this, again, goes back to this kind of motor style thing, something you find in modern music. Hear that? Pretty quiet, but I'll bring it up a tiny bit. Do a little bit of random velocity as well, not too much. And I'm just going to add a bit of gain to them as well. Just bring sort of everything up roughly the same level. Nice. So now if I just play them with the choir, you'll hear they're just providing the sort of motor underneath. And with the piano, all starts to build up. Yeah, sounds good. I mean, these pizzicatos, you don't really hear them in the piece, but they do just help provide a little bit of kind of additional rhythm. And they're a slightly different rhythm to what's going on in the piano. So it combines to create this really tense feeling because nothing is quite moving in sync. It's a really clever way of doing things. Hear it? It's got this kind of unresolved feel, like it's never quite in time, but it actually works perfectly for this. Okay, so let's find our violins 2 Mockup and get our violins 2 in. Dolce's got violins 1 and 2, which is very, very cool. They both sound beautiful, but very slightly different and in different spaces in the hall, which is exactly what we want for this kind of thing. So same thing here, violins Mockup. I'm just going to go in, and we've done not much programming really, other than just setting dynamics. Again, good music just kind of writes itself. And we're going to want to copy those over to a pizzicato, which we will do. So if I just grab that, okay, and I'll just copy those, bring up pizz up. We've got our second violin's pizzicato. Oh, sorry, I'm just checking the chat. Hope All is Goes wondering, has Audio Imperia come up with a change to the session start across all instruments yet? Swap from work mode to hear legatos and back again? No, I think I know what you're referencing. No, that isn't something that we have done yet. You know, you can do it manually in terms of you can set your sample starts to 0 and then put them back. But no, at the moment, it's the sample start time is, you know, something that you'll have to sort of manually change per project or per instrument. I think that could be a limitation of Kontakt and the workflow. I'm not sure. I'm not the developer guru person, but it's definitely something that we'll take a look at some point. That's when Nosferatu says slow down. Just painted the picture in my head. This could totally be an epic vampire movie. Yes, it could. It actually could be a cool vampire movie, right? So here's a good example of how like these violins work together, playing the exact same thing, but a slight bit of humanization, and the fact it's first and second violins just adds a lot of depth. Really subtle, but you can hear like the room opening up as we add those second violins. And then we should just have, I'm going to move them down. And then these Mockup should be pretty nice as well. Nice. And I'm going to add a little bit of a gap between all these because we really want to labor each one. So here, how we get a tiny gap. Really weird orchestration, but I promise you this is what happens. Carl Orf would have had his reasons. When we put it all together, it'll sound really good. Nice, starting to sound good. Hello, Jared. How you doing? Could be amazing to have a master controller that goes in and overrides all open Audio Imperia instruments. It would definitely be cool to do. I don't know how feasible it is, but you know, it's something we could always have a look at at some stage, maybe. We do always try and listen to people's ideas and suggestions. Can't always take everything on board, but you know, it is good to know how you guys like to work and what works for you. I know it's definitely a good thought. I mean, it would definitely make some sort of workflow styles easier. So we do really enjoy all the feedback and everything, you know, that you guys suggest, because it is really useful to know how people work. Everyone works slightly differently, but for some people, there's consistent themes about how they work and what would help work better for them. Okay, so we have the violas here. Bit lower down, as you'd imagine. But still playing pretty much the same thing, building up this huge thick wall of sound. Everything here is a wall of sound from the basses right up, just all huge. Sounds really cool. I'm going to go in and just add a touch of the humanization here. So we're not getting too much of just the big blocky. See, we're getting a tiny bit, maybe actually be a tiny bit too much then. Oh, it's not too bad. I'll just bring them back a little bit though, so we're getting them on the beat. Nice. Cool. Oh, there we go. Ollie's saying it's not possible. That's a shame. Because I think it would be really good. Who knows though, maybe at some point in the future. But okay, great. Let's get the low strings in, because this is where we really begin to get, you know, the bass line that everything is built out off of. So let's come in here, get our cello marcatos. And this, again, most of this, well, so far we've not used many patches. I don't think we're going to need to use many patches here, because everything sort of works so intuitively. Okay. These are just these big stabbing bass notes. Tiny little gaps again, so we can just get a bit of separation between each note. Really simple. Nice. Sounded good. I'm going to need to just add a little bit of extra range to those. This is a pretty rangy piece of music. We're getting right up here. Nice. Really, really high up here. But we can do it using... Right, it's just so big, this piece. I mean, it's so cinematic. Okay, the basses are... It's like traditional classical music. A lot of the time, the basses and the cello are really just doubling each other. I mean, that's true of cinematic music too, but, you know, in classical music, it was very much the case that originally the basses were just sort of the lower octave of the cello, or how we're going to think about it. And then things opened up and became a little bit different to that. But so you see how it adds just so much more depth. And again, Dolce sounds incredible without the basses. As soon as you add the basses, we're in cinematic territory. And we'll make sure that we've got pretty much our full modulation here. So let's have a listen to what we've got. Nice. That is starting to build up into something that sounds really good. Okay. What do we need to add next? We'll need to fix up some of these pizzicatos and things, but we'll do the rest of this section first. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Nucleus, which I have here. Do I have... Yeah, I'm going to be a bit lazy, but I think there's a good reason for this. I'm going to be a bit lazy and just use the Nucleus ensemble patch. The reason being is in this piece of music, you don't really hear the woodwinds. You certainly feel them and hear the texture of them, but you can't pick out what an oboe is doing over a flute. If we had time, I would probably like to go in and do each one of these perfectly. But for today, I think what we're going to do is some copy and paste stuff. I know, I don't like doing it much, but you know, when you've got times up against you, this is why these ensemble patches are so good. Let's just make sure we've got the right thing set up here. Sustains. Nice, and we've got way too much room going on there. Okay, and again, we're going to want all the range we've got here. So we really want to get up right up here. Cool. Have I accidentally, by mistake, completely copied my violins off there? I think I have. That's easy enough to fix though. That's just me being lazy and not checking that I'm not copying stuff over. We can do that. There we go. And I can copy that in there as well. So let's just see. Nice. I'm going to pull out some of the middle of this just to make them feel a little bit further back. And get the high notes coming through more. Again, we're not really going to hear this, but it is going to be there as a layer. If I show you with the strings, you'll maybe just hear... It's subtle, but it does add some thickness. And we also got the basses going on here as well, which I'll just copy over. And then we'll fix up as we go. And we're going to want that low bass in there as well. And then we've got pretty much our whole range. And that is pretty much what the woodwinds do. They're just copying other elements of the orchestra for the most part. They're not doing anything really independent here. So all together, just listen to those woodwinds on their own. Nice, and we'll just get, again, we don't want too much reverb, just put them in a space. Nucleus got a nice space, but it's a bit more of a scoring stage, you know, small to medium scoring stage space. We want to expand that out a bit for sort of classical music. So you can see I'm using a room and a hall together. Take them off. We get a little bit closer and more defined sound. Great for certain contexts, but for this, I think we want more expansiveness. Nice. And there's only one thing I want to do with the woodwinds. I don't want to lose these notes here. We don't want to leave any gaps here. We can actually take this, copy it all down an octave here. Actually, and then take that down an octave there. Nice, and same thing here. It can be a very, very thick, dense woodwind section because... But again, we're not worried too much about the precise orchestration because for this section at least, it's just there as a layer. Just make sure we got the right notes there. We don't want those C's. I knew there was something wrong there. Nice, and we actually don't want those there. It's a bit too much. And we just want those woodwinds just at the point that we can barely not even hear them. They just thicken out the strings, really, and that's exactly what they're doing in the main piece. They're very important, but it's a support role, certainly at this point. Is it Maris? Maris is asking if we'll use the syllable builder at the end to get the words as close as possible. If we have time, maybe we will. Probably not for the whole thing, but maybe for the intro, if we have time. yeah, we'll maybe give it a go because we can get closer. We talked about that earlier on the stream, how I could open this up and choose syllables that were much closer to the original. So we're not going to get exactly the same, but we could use things that had more connection to the original. And we could do that, maybe look at doing that at the end if we do have a bit of time. Cool. Let's now add our timpani. So I'm actually cheating today. I'm not using an audio Imperia timpani. I use our good friends at Native Instruments, just again, because I want more room. The Nucleus timpani is incredible, but it's a little bit tighter and more refined. It works great for doing like action scoring and stuff like that. With a big expansive thing here, I'm going to be using some of the Native Instruments stuff today. So I'm using that timpani. I like the sound of it. Just more spacious here. And we're going to want that a bit louder. We don't want it crazy. It's not like completely overpowering, but you're going to hear a timpani playing at double F. And it's just providing this kind of big booming motor at the beginning. So. Nosferatu, you're right. I can't unhear it now. We need to go and fix this tempo thing. This is a big, huge climactic end to this very first section. So it slows down. We should definitely just add it. We should do it. Let's just make sure. I could use ramps. I could ramp stuff here, but sometimes for some reason it doesn't quite work perfectly on Cubase. So I just go in and manually adjust things. It sounds just fine. You know, it's a little bit more not as smooth, but in actual fact, I quite like that because sometimes that sounds a little bit more realistic. Yeah, so that's good. Maybe not quite that much at that point. There we go. So just something like that. And then we just tidy up this timpani to make sure it sort of sits with everything else. We have a bit of a gap going on here, so just ramp that right up there. Nice. Cool. Yeah, and again, these, you know, we're not going to worry too much about the programming of these woodwinds today because we're just going to use them as this layer. So back them off even a little bit more, I think. Just one there where I can just feel them more than hear them, I guess. Do you know what I'm going to do as well? This sounds weird. I'm going to distort them very slightly. We don't need this panner on. I know this sounds weird, but there's something about like a natural tape style saturation to woodwinds that really just helps make them feel more realistic. Just compresses them and sort of gives them this energy. See? It's like really subtle, but it just pushes them sort of where they need to be for me, which is like really providing this sort of mid energy. Let's just push those back a little bit as well. Not too much, just a tiny bit. Let's just make sure. Yeah, that will do for now. We'll come in and tidy things up if we have time at the end. We're going to get the brass in. We're going to use a mixture of Poseidon and probably Jaeger today. We usually use Jaeger for our brass. Again, we're not going to get the brass perfect. We're just going to sort of get it kind of sounding the way we want to, because the brass is going to just, you know, it's important. You can definitely hear it, but wow, whatever's going on there, we need to stop that. It's just, I think, if I just go to mix the stems here, I'm also having a weird thing where my console's not opening at the moment. So let's just see if we can find our groups here. Yeah, we don't want anything like that much. We don't need those either. Okay, cool. There we go. So that's more like it. Okay, let's get our trombones on the go. So we got Jaeger trombones. I think they're going to work really well for this. You might combine them with Poseidon. And the trombones are sort of doing pretty much what the vocals are doing, but obviously in the right octave. So let's copy this over to the trombones. Nice. So yeah, brass is just copying the voices really in this. They're doing something slightly different at some points, but we just need to still haven't corrected this track delay. I want a little bit more separation here. I'm also going to change that reverb a bit. It's still a bit too much. Maybe do a little bit more programming here. I'm going to have to go, here we go. We're really going to want less of this hall, which is overpowering a bit. That's a bit better. We want the space, but we don't want it. This is not like modern stuff where brass tends to dominate. If it's a big loud piece, you really hear the brass. Think of Star Wars or something. It's like you really feel and hear the brass as being the main element. Brass is a little bit more at the back of the room in this, but it's still providing a huge, important role here. I have a little secret. Sometimes mix mellotron in my woods. That's a really cool idea. Yeah, it's a really great, you know, again, it goes back to this humanization thing of dirtying things up sometimes is exactly what makes it sound more realistic. We need the huge Piatti hit. We do have that. We're going to bring that in as well. And Dimitra says, tremolo crescendo with just a touch of holdover in cellos and basses. We could definitely look at adding a bit of tremolo. I don't think it's in the original, but again, mock-ups are all about the energy of something over the absolute accuracy sometimes. Cool. On that note, I'm going to do something that isn't in the original as well. I'm going to add some Talos low brass. Again, we're looking for, let's see if I can find them. Talos low brass. There we go. We're looking for the feel here of something more than the absolute accuracy. There is low brass in it. So I think it's just tuba and probably a third trombone or something. But we're not worried about that. What we're worried about is the feel and, you know, the way we want this to really sort of sing through. So maybe use marcatos for this so we get the stabs more than anything. That's if I'm actually going to get any sound. What's going on here? Why am I not getting any sound there? See, that could just be me being some kind of weird glitch or something here. That's what it was. I don't know what's going on there, but that's all working now. Okay. That's just going to add so much weight. But we don't too loud. That sounds good to me. Do the same thing again. So I'm going to call this mark long. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to use a sustain as well. And that's what we'll use for for this big sort of build section here. Well, rather big held chords. Okay, and I'm just going to change that to sustain. There we go. Nice. Don't want reverb. Classic mix. Let me just double check the same is true here. Don't want reverb. Classic mix. That's just going to help it sort of bed in a bit better. That's nice. Cool. And then we'll just do a little dip and dive here, like the brass would do. They sort of dip down and then rise up for the end. That should all sound pretty good. Cool. See, these are holding over too long. It's easy enough to fix. Am I in the right thing here? So you want them to go to there. Let me just double check where the vocals end here. Don't want really anything going past that point. So right about there. I think it's actually okay. Yeah, that'll be fine for now. We'll worry about that as we go. Okay, so that's only good. The only thing we want now is the horns. The horns do something slightly different. It's a very horn-like thing here. John Williams does this a lot as well. One of the things that horns sound really good at is sort of sustained elements more. So, for example, we have the trombones playing this. They're playing the movement there. The horns play this, something more like this. They just hold. They don't actually literally play that. I'm going to have a look and see. Timpani stands out, especially the poem tunes. That might be true. We'll definitely go in and revise as we go. Let's just see what we've got going on with the horns here. Okay. So I think we've got... I'm just going to check. I've actually got some of the sheet music here. Just this first page that I've still got loaded up. And then we've got the E. Yeah. So kind of what you'd imagine with horns really is we've got these big held kind of concord like. Got that going on, right? It sounds a bit weird on its own, but it really helps to kind of glue the rest of the brass together. So let me just see that that's right. Obviously they come in that beat. You're going to see what I mean now when I play all this together. Do you see, like, you can't really hear them that much, but we actually want it to be that way by design. They're not supposed to overpower. They add that constant sort of, you know, sort of almost like a pedal note in a way, or a pedal chord in some ways. And without it, it just loses a bit of the tension. Yeah, it just helps just to sort of keep everything together. And I think you're right. Let's back that timpani down a bit. It's getting a bit trigger happy there. In fact, let's just make sure we're not being... Yeah, what we probably should do is not have everything be full velocity here, right? I mean, it's a timpani player, but again, you should really reserve the absolute top dynamics for like those moments that you want things to cut through. If everything is just top dynamic, it doesn't really work. Do a little bit of randomization there as well. So that should make it sound a little bit less. One of the reasons is punching through is volume, but the bigger reason is probably the dynamics. Just a bit samey, you know, it's not got much breathing room there. Cool. Same thing here. We want that first one to be huge, but the others we don't quite want to be as... Let's do that piatti. It's there, it's good to go. I've literally just got it here. Just a big old piatti crash. And that one can be top dynamic. In fact, we can bring it up. Again, that white noise of a piatti, the way... I mean, if I show you guys very quickly, it's boring, but it's interesting at the same time. You know, what a piatti or a cymbal has a huge frequency spectrum going on. All this stuff in particular up here is really important. It's like a sizzle, you know, it just cuts out over everything. And it's got a sustain to it too. And that's what's just giving this huge burst of excitement at that point. So without the piatti, sounds fine, but you don't get much emphasis on that second part of the chord. But it really just helps. And it doesn't have to be super, super loud. You know, it's not like crashing through. Definitely so, but even just at that level, it's really just sort of helping. That's all cool. Again, this is just a support layer, but what we are going to do is this. I want to just back it down a little bit so we get a bit of breath. That'll just help add a bit of kind of drama to that moment. Nice. And let's just make sure that timpani is kind of working. Just make sure that roll is working. Sort of cuts off a bit abruptly there. That's fine. We can fix that if we've got time. Yeah. We may have to... You know what might work? It's a bit of a cheat, but just to reintroduce a hit there. Just finishes off that phrase. Yeah, that kind of works. It'll smooth it, you know, it was not perfect, but it'll work better in the mix. Because it sustains the timpani. We were losing the timpani there. Okay, that's pretty much everything. What else do we need in here? Oh, I guess we need trumpets as well. I need Poseidon trumpets here. And I think they're just doubling the trombones an octave higher. But Poseidon's got some awesome trumpets. The sizzle on them. It's just great, you know. So, come in here, copy this. And then we're almost ready to move on to the next section, which is this kind of brooding section. Again, trumpets got that kind of, not white noise, but that higher, you know, element. Without them, the brass doesn't have as much. Just fills out that upper frequency. We don't want them to be blaring through, you know, we don't want them to be like up here. What we do want is to make sure they're in time, however. It's going to help. Still got to go back and change this. Just been too busy to do all this stuff. And same here. All this should be delayed somewhat. There we go. Thanks. I'm glad you're catching the stream live and hope you're enjoying it. Nice. Of course, what we're missing here are these horns. I'm just going to have a quick look what they do. Same thing. It's all sustained, so it's going to be an A. Just working at it, and yeah. Okay. And yeah. So it's all. What is that? Yeah, just octaves. So I'll show you what copy. No need to reinvent the wheel here. Grab this. Anyone will do. And this is a very horn-like thing, particularly in classical music, but modern composers still use it too. This sustain sort of sound to them, and we'll really bring them up here full. You know what I'm going to do here? How am I going to do this? I'm going to duplicate these horns, I think. I'm just going to add a little bit of shorts. I'm going to layer shorts in at that point, so you're going to see what I mean now. Maybe try the staccatos. We'll see if they work. Just to give a bit of definition to that big climactic element here. So we've got, did I put them in? Yeah. So it's not what I wanted though. I wanted that. There we go. Just this section here. These 4 notes or 5 notes. And then just make sure. Oh, I see what I've done here. Let's go back a bit, a few steps. I've made mistakes. There we go. That's what I've done. That's what I've done. Making terrible mistakes. This is what happens when you're tired and you've been listening to Hans Zimmer the night before. Nothing wrong with Hans Zimmer, of course, but, you know, my head's full of Guthrie Govan's guitar playing. I think I used staccatissimo. Yeah, we're just going to add a bit of emphasis to each note here. Sounds a bit weird, right? But if I just bring it down to a level there, make sure we got everything going on. It's cool. And for our purposes, for this arrangement, that's fine. If it was, the horns are more sort of clear, we maybe want to finesse that, but for this, it's fine. Cool, and I'm going to just shorten the notes at the end a little bit here. You know, we really want to kind of like make this a bit more dramatic at the end. Just going to do that. And that should be good for us for the first part, I think. Nice. We can move on and just get the rest of this part going. Not sure we're going to have time to finish it all day, but look, that's fine. We're just going to sort of move on and get what we can get done today done. So let's see where we're at. We're going to need to cut some of this stuff out because we definitely don't want any of this brass stuff going on. I think it's all just sort of brass shorts at this point. Sorry, brass held notes and things. So we don't want any big brass staccato stuff or anything. Let's just take that out there. Nice. So first I'm going to do is duplicate this. I actually don't know. Yeah, I think there is bassoon. I'm just checking up here. I still have the score up here, and there is bassoon playing this here, but it's going to be short notes and it's going to be a layer, you know, so that's better. That sounds pretty good to me. And then we just have these long notes here, which I will keep on the sustains. They're just providing this sort of, it's pretty quiet, but with the basses. Now, the first thing I want to do here is these basses have to be pretty quiet. Everything comes down at this point. So we're more like, that's better. Nice. Now, we should start sounding better now. Let's just get these down as well. Everything, I mean, look at that. That's crazy. We're playing like piano here, really. So, as in piano, as in the dynamic. Do a bit of random velocity. I'm not worried too much about the exact, you know, if again we had time, I'd sculpt this a bit more, but we just want the vibe. And of course, the big thing here before I do anything else is, of course, this is all pizzicato. So we want viola's pizzicato. There they are. This whole section is pizzicato on all the strings, I think. So we don't want any. There we go. Pizzicato stuff going on there, and same with the celli. If I just find our celli pizzicatos, there they are. But they'll be quite quiet, you know, they're not like plucked like really hard, you know, that wouldn't work for this section. It's all quite, you know, tense and but sort of fragile at the same time. That's nice. But they are an octave down. So it's just playing in octaves. And then with the upper strings providing this kind of interesting counter motor. It's great, right? It's got this real nervous kind of energy to it. Cool, it's sounding good. And then let's just go in here. Make sure we have this stuff at the right tempo. Or rather, right sample start, I should say, not tempo. That's it. And that's cool. Again, because we're focusing on the vocals, if this is not 100% perfect, that's fine. Nice, but we're going to want to bring it down, right? It's not that level. Let's just grab all these, bring all these down, do a bit of random, make sure that's better. Yeah, down even more. This is sort of more, you know, dynamics are really important here, and as is, of course, taking this out of the wrong articulation. Definitely don't want that to be a Mockup. Or I've lost the cello there, but that's fine. That's more like it. Bring them down even more. That's better. It's just this kind of thing going on. Take those out. Nice. And then as a final thing, none of this has to be. That's more like it. We should be pretty much there for that. Let's just make sure. Yeah, nice. Nice piano. We'll fix up the rest of this now. First thing to do is the timpani are a little bit sort of loud. just loud as in dynamically, you know, they're being played a bit too bing, you know, it's just really soft. Let's listen. Yeah, that's more like it. And then we get to here. This is a really interesting thing here. So this is something that's like just a really interesting blend of things. Everything stays in D. You can see right the way through, bass is just in D, 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 D. Everything else is in D, you know, pianos stay in D, but the timpani moved to A halfway through this. And that combination of the A, listen how just these low elements, how much tension is added from that kind of, not unresolved, but this sort of weird, you know, they work together, you know, they're not out of tune, but it adds this layer, sudden layer of kind of extra pitch that is really kind of quite unsettling. So all D. And now it's great, right? It's almost like these days that would be like a synth, you know, that would be a bum, bum, bum on like some kind of Moog style thing. But, you know, Carl Orf didn't have that back then, probably didn't want it. But, you know, this is all very much like a pedal, but a different note. It's just great. Adds so much tension. And that's rounded out by a tam-tam, big gong. So the tam-tam adds so much here. Listen to this. That's like the tension in that, you know, is just unbelievable. So this section's pretty much nice. Okay, let's fix this up a bit, because first of all, this is all way too, we want little accents here. I'm just going to write this in really quickly. Not even that much, but we want everything to sort of have a bit of movement here, right? It can't be too robotic. So this kind of thing. I'm just going to write this in. It's not the most fun to watch, sorry guys, but it'll be worth it. Building in intensity a little bit there. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to add some time randomness to this, right? None of this can be too perfect. Okay, that should sound pretty good. One more thing I'm going to do is we just want to add what's going on here has to happen in the woodwinds as well. Quietly, but it's there. It's in the oboes. So I want to simulate that. In fact, what I might do is just add that to our oboes. So we've got these two oboes here. Let's just move that up. And we can activate that track. And we can just have it in the oboes and then sort of mix them into taste. I think that will sound good. If I can actually get any sound out of them. What's going on there? There we go. Quiet though, obviously. Might be slightly out of time there. That's fine if they are. I'll move them around. Where do we put them? We want them. Let me just do it this way. It's going to be easier. Just where I've been lazy and copied and pasted the wrong point. So delete those. And grab them again from the quiet. And just make sure I copy them at the right point. There we go. Pop them in there. This is where like timbre and orchestral colors are so important, because without this the choir loses a bit. Let's make sure it's blended in. Obviously they got to be this too. See, really smart, proper orchestration from somebody that's thinking about how the orchestra works in a concert space, you know. Same. These are a bit too loud. You know, they've really got to be kind of plodding away a little bit here. Oh, don't want to do that. Nope, don't want to do that either. Want to do that. That's better, I think. . 'Cause 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 The clavier one, because it's an actual staccato sound, it's not too bad. Nice. There's only one thing we're missing now, which is really important. Again, this is a John Williams technique. I mean, you know, one that he uses. A lot of other composers use it too. But this, low horns. Something about a low pedal on the horn just adds so much drama. Goes through pretty much the whole thing. It's kind of just sort of working with the basses and the bass elements, but something about a low horn that just sounds kind of menacing and dark. There we go. I'm not worrying too much about the programming. Just see, but I think that'll add a lot without really drawing attention to itself. Yeah, see? Just fills out. And that's fine. Sort of dynamic wise. Nice, cool. What we're going to do here is grab this. Let me just make sure. Yeah, what I'm going to do is just, these should be doing the same as the horns. So grab that. We're not worried too much about quantizing this because it's not really something you hear. This is not the element you're focusing on. So let me just go here, grab that, paste that in. Nice. And then what I'm going to do is when we get to that pedal note in the timpani, I'm going to create a contrabassoon. We can do that. We're allowed, right? It's going to sound a bit weird in isolation. But we really want, let me bring them up slowly over time. Something about that low wood that's really going to just help, you know, add tension at that point. Nice. And then what I'm going to do here is put these on our flutes as well. So I'm going to get the flute patch, 2 flutes from Nucleus, just to add a bit of, I think it does happen in the sheet music. Well, I can kind of see it does. I'm looking at the only other page I've got up here, but I can sort of see that that happens at that point. And it makes sense. You know, we're building up the arrangement here. It's pretty low for flutes, but that's fine because, you know, this is more about just adding a kind of color at this point. If I play the woodwinds. Just adds the arrangement there. Nice. So what I'm going to do, we're just losing a little bit too much of the basses here. We're getting a bit too quiet. So, and particularly when we get up here, they're really going to start sort of adding more tension. Might be a bit too much, but you can see where I'm going with it. We just want more of that. Same thing there. They're a bit too prominent. That's better. Cool. We can get to this point, I think. Yeah, it's a really cool thing. And John Williams does it a lot. It's a lot in Harry Potter. You know, he does a lot of the horns, sometimes muted, sometimes not, but low down. You know, he'll get these big... It creates this kind of evil, but sort of almost caricature evil-like sound, which is good if you're doing like mythic stuff or kind of wizarding magic stuff. It's just got such a kind of drama to it. And it's really subtle, right? It's not something you really notice, but it's adding some presence without a bit flat with just has so much kind of extra energy, but without being loud and obnoxious and sort of drawing attention to itself. Okay, let's try and fix up this next section here. So we have lost our cellos here, but that's okay. They are just doing what the violins are doing, but in a lower octave. There we go. So I'm just going to grab them, paste them in there. They're obviously not getting up that high. I think they're a couple of octaves down, but as we said earlier, a lot of this is... So the strings here are just playing this sort of... Okay, let's make sure they're in the right place. Let me just make sure what's going on here. What have I done here? Yeah, cool. So they should all be here. Let's just sort of cut those out a bit there. And they should be there. Cool. We need to add the brass and the woodwinds here, which are pretty easy to do. First thing I want to say about this piece, though, this section here, really cool on the timpani what's going on. So the timpani's been playing these constant pedals. When we get to this point, we're not going to want it to be quite that loud. Probably more like that, a little bit more randomness in the velocity. Right, and we might even bring them down lower. I think keep them higher for now, just... So yeah, timpani's doing this great. And the big thing going on here is we have a grand cassa. There it is. So that's providing these big downbeats. And it is played, you know, full whack here. So... just helps add some huge elements to those downbeats. We'll fix those as we go. Nice. Now, we don't want these pianos to stick out too much, right? They're really important here, but we don't want them to sort of draw attention to themselves. So we might not want them quite as loud as that dynamically. I'm also going to randomize that time a bit. Same thing here. I just think they're a bit too, you know, loud and proud. And again, because a player couldn't really play that loud consistently, right? They're gonna sort of be more here. That's better. That'll fit in better, I think. Nice. Now what we're going to want here is our horns. Let me just see what they're doing. Yep, pretty much what I thought. They're doing exactly what the vocals are doing. So let me just grab. So let's delete that for now. Cool. And we're going to want that to start. If I just start them there. Sorry, I was having a moment there where I was confusing myself what I was doing. I really need more sleep. There we go. They're doing this down here. And we'll do these on sustains as well. We'll obviously make sure we've got them all lined up right. Just make sure what's going on here. Cool. Yeah, that's okay, I think. Make sure they're in the right place as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take them out of there, see if we can... That's better, I think. And then these longer notes, we don't want them. Just sort of blending these together. Cool. We have this interesting thing going on in the trombones and the trumpets. This little figure going on here. And that's also going to be happening in the trumpets an octave higher too. So we'll load that up and get that in. There we go. Really nice staccatissimo inside of Poseidon here. So we'll put that in there. Octave higher. Sounds a bit weird by itself, but I promise you guys that it'll work. We don't want that. So this is not the best program by itself, but it's fine because it's sort of supporting everything else. You can hear how those are a bit too intense. They're there, but we need them more like that. That's better. That's where they'd be. Because again, players couldn't play absolute top dynamic note after note after note. They couldn't do that. And it doesn't work. Good orchestration because you can hear it's not working. That's more like it. And what we need to do is get on the low brass. Where is it? There we go. We want the low brass to be playing that. That should sound really good in the marcatos, I think. Yeah. Nice. I'm also going to get the Poseidon horns at this point, I think. They are really, really good. And we haven't really needed them up till now, but I think they will work here to sort of glue our Jaeger horns together. They've also got a great tone of their own as well. So this will be easy. And we're not going to worry too much about programming them perfectly. Nice. They've got a really nice tone there that I think is just going to work as a kind of layer for... Yeah. At this point, the horns harmonize, and we definitely want that, we know, harmony. Right, it's not gonna work without it. Just make sure. So we've got this going on in the horns, but at the right octave. So if I take all this out. And again, it doesn't sound great by itself, but that's fine in this context because these horns are just... That's where we're going to end for today, but we've got another 15-20 minutes or so. One thing we do want to do is what's happening in these piano is also happening in the upper woodwinds too. So this is happening here on our staccato, which I will rename because that's what it is. And it's happening there. just fills out that what's going on. Just this kind of relentlessness to it. Cool. And this also happens on the piatti as well. Going to add a lot of impact. But we want these to be not quite as loud as the beginning. Just make sure I've got these going right. Can we look at Word Builder? I think we'll have time to look a little bit at it. We probably won't be able to do everything, but let's get them up there. I might just turn these down here instead. Bit of sort of mixing, I suppose, but just cool. What we've got going on in the low brass, we're going to want copied in the woodwinds as well. We probably won't really hear that, but let's get it. Will just add a lot. And you know what I'm going to do here as well? I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at it and get Talos 12 horns in at this point. Again, mock-up world, we're not trying to be accurate. We're trying to gain some feeling of, you know, it's almost like we're trying to get the emotion of the piece as opposed to perfectly accurate representation of it. And I just feel like we're missing a little bit in the horns. We're missing like an attack there. So yeah, let's grab all of that, and I think that is going to give us the attack that we're looking for. And it's just a layer, we're just blending it in, you know, we're not worried too much about, actually I don't need to do that, I can do this, and then come here, just make sure we've got from that point forward the harmony, because I think that's really important to get across. Where are we on our 12 horns? Get rid of those, replace with the harmony version. Of course, make sure we got time, sample start time. Nice. A little bit brightness there. Okay. Add a little bit of hole to this bass or grand caster. I don't want to muddy things up, but we really want to feel that space, I think. Without that, it sounds a little bit thin. Yeah, I'm also going to add a touch of distortion again. It's one of those things where it's so loud, it's almost like crunching the mics up a bit, and we want to kind of simulate that. Not too crazy, but that's a bit too much there, I think. Yeah, I think that works. Maybe that one instead, we'll see. Nice, and these can be loud, loud, loud. Should have them up here. With a little bit of a gap between each one, right? We don't want them to be... And then that should be working with... Nice. Okay, that's coming together, I think. Just going to see. Just going to do a tiny little bit of volume boost to some of these elements here. Should we listen to the whole thing? Do a tiny, not really mixing, I'm just going to do one or two things, and then we'll go to the word builder. We'll just have a little look at how it works. We're not going to be able to do too much with it, but we can sort of show, what we might be able to do if we had time with it. Let's listen from the beginning, see what we've got. In fact, let me just very quickly, I'm going to add a tiny bit of tape saturation to this, just on our master here. I'm going to, I'll just use... I'm going for the old school feel, right? All the 04 tuners that I remember are like recorded in the 70s and the 80s, and there's all these great recordings of them. I'm kind of looking for that. I want a bit of crunch to it. I don't want it to be too perfect. Kind of want it to be, something a bit crunchier. I think that's helping. Yeah. I'm just going to use a little bit of multi-band here. That's too much there. We really want to set it. That should do. It's far from perfect, but it just tames things a little bit. Let's listen from the beginning and then do some word building. Before we finish, one more thing. I should remember that we've got to add some more piattis here. And there we go. Otherwise, we're not finished. And that will do there. Just do one more there. And same with the bass drum. And then we're good to go. So cool. Now let's listen from the beginning. Should be pretty much done. Not too bad. You know, could definitely do some work for a couple of hours. That's not in too bad shape. Let's have a little look at this word building then, because I think, yeah, some people want to see how we can make this sound a little bit more realistic. We have these syllables to choose from, so you're never going to get 100% accurate. This is not like a super in-depth word builder where you can get every word perfectly. It's just not sort of designed that way. It's designed to be more of a workhorse that kind of works fast and simply, but you've still got a lot to choose from, and you can do some quite complex assigning. So let's do this section here, because I think it's going to be easier to sort of hear this section, what's going on. So the first words, or the first phrase, is semper crescis, or semper crescis, I think it's pronounced. So we can find something that can fit more with that. So let's just play around with what we've got and see. Where are we? Here we go. So we might go something like, I mean, you guys tell me if you think I'm wrong, or I could do something better here. So if we haven't really got a per, but we've got a care, so that might work. It's sort of going to sound, and we want more of a sem than a seep. Do we have anything that could work there? We'll keep it like that for now, but you can see how it's changing according to what I'm doing. And then we could do, let's take a look here. We haven't really got a crashes here, but we could do something like, I don't know. Let's do something like, what do you guys think? Let's do the care again. And then you can make your own custom phrase in the advanced tab. What do you mean in terms of, help me, Ollie. What do you mean? I've never used this before. You have extra syllables here is what I'm presuming you mean. Let's take a look. Ollie's here to help me. Thank God. Otherwise, I'd be showing you all kinds of stuff. No, we don't want to do that. Let's take a look. Maybe use something like, maybe this. And then the C. And then we could do something like, whilst Ollie gets back to me with what he was telling me about. So it's the second word there. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, you can do so you can do click reset, and then you can add syllables from the top section in your desired sequence. Yeah, you can do that if you want to. So yeah, you can do this without using key switches. So we could basically just add the syllables how we wanted to here. So what's Ollie saying? So I never do it this way. I always do it using these manually. Click reset. Where's reset? I'm not a very good ambassador for Audio Imperia at the moment, here am I? Here. I see what you mean. So yeah, rather than using the syllables, you could do it this way as well. Or rather than using key switches, you could just decide. So if we said, let's see what we had originally, we wanted. This is not Cubase. This is for anybody that uses Chorus. This will be inside of Chorus. So whether you're on Logic, whether you're on FL Studio, or whatever you're using, this would be something inside of Logic. So if you have Chorus, you'll be able to do this. And you can see Ollie's been telling me that I can add custom stuff here. So let's say that I did something like, what was those first words again? Let's get as close as we can. We've got this. Yeah, so maybe if we did something like this, bring this in, and we'll do sem. Thanks, Ollie. Ollie's giving me the get rid of that one. See, it's really easy. So I'm picking and choosing. I'm going to do se meet, and then I'm going to do something like the care, and then I'll do something we haven't used yet. So mark like this. So now watch if I take these out when I play this. So you see, I don't have to like put the key switches in there, and I could do this time, maybe something like, let's take a little look at this and see. So we've got Nucleus. So let's see if we've got anything that's going to work there. Let's do moot. We haven't used that yet. And then we'll go back to the K and mart again. It's the same word. So see how you can build these yourself if you want to. And let's just do the rest of it then. What is it? Vita. So maybe if we do keep there, and yeah, let's just do, and then we've got the lease at the end. So if we use maybe the C. So when I play this now, see how it's going through. I could add two more then. So let's just do so. And then you can add 3 more. You could just have them cycle around, so you could have some customization there. Or you can do it as we, the other way that I was doing it as well, which is with the key switches. If I put those key switches back in, if I actually know how to do that, there we go. So if you prefer to do it where you're key switching, it takes a bit more time, but you can do it that way too. So you could either word build inside of here, or you could use the key switches. And you can see I'm going to be able to come in and change all of those. They're all files at the moment. That's because I've got but there we go. And I can manually change these to whatever I want it to there. So if you have really long sequences, this may be a good way to go, but it does take more time. And there's also S release versions yet. So let me show you very quickly what that means. So let me just put something random in here just so you can see that what I'm doing. And then I'm going to do that and then that. So it's pretty quick to do the key switches if you want to work that way. So now it's triggering based on key switches, but that would take a lot longer to build up. So I'm just having those play the same thing again. Let me just show you this S syllable thing as well, because it is actually really cool. So if I maybe move this down here, you can assign this to have velocities lower than a certain level, not trigger S's, and velocities higher than a certain level, trigger S's. So I'm going to put this in the middle. So if I play this really softly, if I play at full velocity. So what we could do is have some of these be, let's just grab these. So let's make the last phrase or the last syllable of each phrase an S, so it gives it some definition. So see how we're having an S on the end there as well. Pillar Talk's asking if you line it up, if you don't line it up properly, will it not loop properly? And that can happen, although you can reset it so that it will start from the beginning of the track. So it all depends on, like, if you have just a few short phrases that you want to do, you might want to use the preset builder. If you really want to get in and sort of be more detailed and make sure that things trigger exactly how you want, you might want to do the key switching. It really just depends on workflow. And again, you don't have to use these. You could just use the random cycling through. Depends on how you want to work, basically. But yeah, there's a few different ways you can work, but you can reset so that you would go back to the beginning of a phrase when you came to export or play through your track. You can assign, yes, so you can save them. Well, let me just go back to where we were. So yeah, you can save these wherever you want. And then you can have them assigned and you can do different ones if you want to. We've got a default preset here, but you can see there would be space to put other ones in there as well. Yeah, so you can get quite detailed with it and you can load up multiple patches and have things going on if you wanted to that way too. So it can be pretty powerful, or if you just want to get writing quickly, which is truthfully usually what I do, especially if I'm doing like trailer stuff. The syllables for me are not as important as just the feeling of singers singing real stuff together, you know. So but if you were doing something like you wanted to do a more accurate version of something like Oh Fortuna, yeah, you could get in with the syllables and be more accurate and make sure they were consistent between male and female as well, so that everyone was singing the exact same thing. So you can definitely do that and get quite a lot of control over things as well. And as we said, we've got like things like we didn't really dig into the traditional syllables today, so we got these energetic syllables and we've got some dynamic range here. So sounds really good. We've obviously got the S triggering there because of the way I've got this set up. I'll put this back up here. Sounds really good, but we could use the traditional syllables as well. Let me just load them up. I think they should be here. They should load up here. Let me just very quickly see if I can get them loaded up, so I can show you guys the traditional syllables. Let's do the female traditional syllables here. We can change these over. It's going to take a second to load. So the traditional syllables are pretty much the same thing, but obviously sung in a way that's less intense and less, you know, operatic. Operatic's not really the right word, but less, you know, of that full-on kind of energy. It depends what you're doing. Obviously, for something like O Fortuna, you're going to want as big as you can get. With something that's a little more subdued or a little more, you know, dynamic, you might want to use some traditional syllables as well, which I'm just going to load up. There they go. Let me just bring them back down. So they've got a slightly different. So this might be good if you want more of a. And again, let's just check that release thing there. There we go. So yeah, really, really cool. And you've also got, I mean, we've got so much going on here as well. If I load up these traditional articulations really quickly, you're going to see we've got a whole bunch of just traditional articulations as well with legatos. The legatos sound absolutely beautiful too. And these are the same for the men and the women. Obviously, the two things that we've done in the last couple of weeks have been these big epic choral things, Duel the Fates and O Fortuna. So we've only really showed off the one side of the library, but it's such a useful library, got so much variation on it as well, that we can load up something like these traditional articulations, and you're going to see how much more we're going to have. We also have slow syllables as well. You can see that on the screen. So they're really good if you're doing something that's maybe a little more slow and choral, or you wanted to do something like a kind of Lord of the Rings style. I'll show you guys in a second. So... we've got oohs as well. These sound beautiful. We've got the ums. These are really nice. Beautiful. And we got the sustained versions too if you want to do chords. So right down to whisper quiet. And I'll just very quickly show you these slow syllables as well, because I really, really like these slow syllables. Maybe I'll show you them in the men, because we've done all the female ones here. We've also got the ensemble as well with the traditional articulations. These men will take a second to load. I really need to battery save some of these libraries so they're a little bit faster. But yeah, maybe we need to do a stream where we show the kind of slower and the more kind of beautiful side of chorus too. We kind of did that a little bit in the Lord of the Rings stream, if I remember rightly, which is a couple of months ago. But yeah, these last few, we've been very much showing the kind of epic side of the choir, which is definitely there. Let's have a little listen to these. So let's get right down here. I mean, listen how beautiful that is. We can get even further. I can also use the sustain pedal to change these, so you can't see, but I'm not using my hands here. I'm just using the sustain pedal. So really, really useful. Really, really cool to use. I'm just going to put these back to the energetic syllables. But hopefully that gives you a little idea of what you can do with the syllable builders, stuff that even I don't know because Ollie was teaching me things. I don't use the preset stuff that much. I have used it once or twice, but I use the key switches. But it all depends on time as well. If I have no time, I will just literally use the kind of the auto randomization, where you randomize between different syllables, or I use the key switches sometimes because I just find that easier because I'm old and can't keep up with the way the world's going. So I use the key switches, which is a bit messy, but it does work. Or you can just use the auto function, which sounds really good. I mean, like I said, in a pinch, this is definitely going to still have all the energy and sort of emotion that you want. Still got that movement. Cool. So that was our little O Fortuna / Carmina Burana, which is very good fun. Beautiful piece of music. And obviously, I think so much of today's cinematic music kind of owes something to some of these great pieces of music from the classical and 20th century canon. This is one of them. Holst, Mars, The Rite of Spring, all of these pieces have all the stuff that you hear from John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith, and even people like to some extent like Howard Shore, or even Hans to a certain extent. You can hear a lot of the influence. Danny Elfman, a huge amount of his stuff is based on kind of Stravinsky and a lot of these great composers. And so this is one of those pieces where whenever you hear a big choral piece, whether it's like a John Williams choral piece or something like that, you can nearly always hear the inspiration of Carmina Burana in it, and O Fortuna in particular. Great work as well. Go check it out if you never checked it out before, because it's got a whole suite of songs, well, not songs, pieces, but they're all really good. This is probably the most famous, but there's some other great stuff in there as well. Cool. So we shall head back to just chatting, and we shall wrap up for the evening, and we shall say goodbye. There we go. So I hope that was a good overview for Chorus, for everyone that was watching. As I said, it's such an easy library to use. Always sounds great. We've never really done any programming in the 2 times that we've used Chorus the last couple of weeks. We've kind of just let it sing for itself, and it always sounds really, really good to me. And that's why I love it so much. It just works, it never fails to work. And on those, 99% of occasions that you just need a really good solid choir to just sing and have emotion and depth, sound great because of that mix. It's all there in Chorus. And as you said, you've got a huge selection of things: the traditional articulations, the slow syllables, the energetic syllables, the traditional syllables. They're all there. They all sound great, and they're also usable. And yeah, as I said, this is my library for almost everything choral I do. There's only here and there where I may want some weird effects or something, I might go to something else, but this is great. Demetrius, that's amazing. I love a video explaining how these libraries were recorded, kind of like behind the scenes where we can see the musicians and watch like a documentary style. That'd be really interesting. I mean, definitely maybe when we do things in the future, there might be some way of letting you guys see a little bit more behind the scenes. We did do, it's not quite the same thing, but we did do a course, Crafting the Score, with the great Tristan Noon, orchestrator extraordinaire. And we did do it behind the scenes of the recording session we did for that course. And that's available for free on YouTube. So if you look on our videos, go back a few, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 months ago, we released a full-on hour-long recording session with an orchestra, warts and all the conversations, all the discussions, all the replays, all the things that we asked them to change, or we worked on there. So it's not quite the same as recording the sample library, but if you want a look at how a recording session works, that's available for free on our YouTube channel. And then we obviously have the course that was the sort of course that piece is based on, where Tristan goes into all the incredible orchestration stuff that he does as well. But that's a kind of a little peek at how these things kind of work. They're slightly different with sample libraries, but it was really, really great. We were all very lucky to get to go to Budapest and work with the great Budapest Scoring Orchestra. And they were just fantastic, and they absolutely nailed the piece. And it was all recorded live for you guys to look at. So go check that out if you haven't already. And as always, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube, do subscribe. You'll get notifications and all the videos and things that we do. There's going to be lots and lots coming. So do subscribe, because you'll get notifications about all of that stuff. And if you're not on our Discord, do join as well, because that's a community that's growing every day. It's now a few hundred members big and growing bigger and bigger. And there's a lot of conversation on there now when it comes to workflow tips and, people comparing pieces or asking for feedback or just wanting to share what they're up to and what they've been working on. Very friendly and welcoming place. We definitely want to keep it that way. So the more of you there, just to sort of, talk, discuss, and have fun doing all things music, that would be great too. I think it's really near where you can associate library with a human name, similar to the two boy vocals for Glade. Yeah, I mean the two boy soloists for Glade are just really, really lovely solo voices. And Glade, I'm sure I've gone on about this a lot on the streams, but just in case anybody's here that doesn't know, Glade is a free library that we released recently. Beautiful selection of sounds. It's really, really good, really, really powerful, including those two incredible boy soloists that are in there as well. And they sound wonderful, really easy to use. Great sort of melody instrument with these boy soloists. And Glade is free. Go on the Audio Imperia website, find out how to download it and use it. And more importantly, make some great music with us and share it with us, because we'd love to see what you guys are doing with it. We've had a lot of love for Glade, which has been great. And we've also had a lot of people send stuff that they've done with Glade, or reviews they've done of Glade, or, you know, just them using Glade. And it's been wonderful to see. Yeah, so that will hopefully, you know, be really useful for you. And if you haven't checked out Glade yet, go on the website, have a look. It's free for you guys to use. And it is really, really good. I really enjoyed being a part of it. And I enjoy using it. I actually used it on a project a few days ago. It's really good. I just used the two boys for some trailer work. Sounds incredible. That's exactly what I did as well. I used them for some trailer stuff too. And yeah, they sound cinematic. Bit of reverb on them just to make them sort of, you know, larger than life. But for the trailer that I was doing, they were really, really good. So yeah, definitely check it out. They're really, really high quality sounds recorded, you know, to a really high quality, beautiful selection of stuff. And then we've got a whole bunch of presets if you want to get writing fast with them. We've got a really powerful engine that we're using to you know, create the presets, and you can create your own presets as well. So definitely worth checking Glade out. Okay, I think we shall wrap up here for now. Thank you all for joining me. As always, it's really, really great to spend a couple of hours writing some music or mocking up some music and having everyone along for the ride. So yeah, sign up or subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't. Sign up to our Discord if you want to. The link will be in the description for this video, and come say hello. And we shall be back with another video soon. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up, so do stay tuned, and we shall let you know as soon as it's available. Okay, until I see you guys next time, have a great day, great evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Happy composing, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Until then,